Hey everyone, and this is me and Rachel's author project. We did it on Shakespeare, and I know what you're thinking. You don't even have to say it. You're welcome. We did this for you. Our sweat, our blood, our tears has gone into this, and I hope you enjoy it. If you don't, I'm gonna have to kill you. And you probably think of Shakespeare, when you hear his name, you're probably thinking first, boring, yawn, and then you think of all the plays that he's done. You know, Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet, one of those that you've probably heard of or read, or even seen maybe. But what most people don't really know much about is his life, his personal life, his history. William Shakespeare was born on April the 26th, 1564, in Stratford-upon-Avon, England. His parents were well off for the time period, and he was most likely taught at Stratford's local school. Leading up to his marriage and after his youth, there's a historical lapse where we really don't know much about him. But Shakespeare was married to Anne Hathaway in 1582, a woman 8 years his senior. Shakespeare had a daughter with her in 1583 and twins 2 years later in 1585. After this last event in Shakespeare's life, the birth of his twins, there's another historical lapse, and the historical records don't resume until 1592, when Shakespeare is already working in the theater. The entirety of his acting career is spent working for the Lord Chamberlain's Company, which is later renamed the King's Company. One of the first things I learned when I was doing this project was that Shakespeare was actually a poet, and these were what he published before he published any of his sonnets or his plays. His poetry was published with 2 poems appearing in 1593 and 94. The majority of Shakespeare's sonnets were also written around this time. Shakespeare's first plays began to appear around 1594 as well, and he produced roughly 2 a year until around 1611. Most of his famous tragedies, such as Romeo and Juliet and Hamlet, were written in the early 1600s, while his romances, such as Twelfth Night, were written from 1608 onwards. Shakespeare spent the 5 remaining years of his life in Stratford, a wealthy man. He died April the 23rd, 1626, 3 days before his birthday, at the age of 51. First off, though, before we go into what makes Shakespeare special, what his major and important works are, I'd like to teach you guys what drama is. Not really teach, just a recap of what it is. If you want to go deeper into what drama is, make sure you read the drama chapters after poetry and paraines. That was very helpful for me in doing this project. Drama is defined by the online Merriam-Webster dictionary as a composition in verse or prose intended to portray life or character, or to tell a story usually involving conflicts and emotions through action and dialogue, and typically designed for theatrical performance. What that means is that even though drama takes a lot of the forms that prose and poetry can take, it can have the wording of poetry with the literary elements of prose. It's different. It's very different, though similar. Because due to the uniqueness of the way drama is, I mean, we're talking about a play, real actors, real audience, background that you can see. The settings that you can have are limited. The sort of actions and events that take place are limited. Because, I mean, unless you have, like, super amazing special effects, there's only so much that can happen in a play. Because of this, and because we're both seeing things happen on stage and hearing them happen, it's best that drama is limited, and that's why it is mostly used to portray character interaction, people talking to each other. And you might ask, why is both seeing and hearing better than just reading and using your imagination? Well, the stimuli of both seeing and hearing is greater than if you were just reading and imagining a picture in your head. So you're both seeing something happen and hearing it happen, so it seems more real. This is why drama is normally more powerful than prose and poetry can be. So if you take your equal of drama, prose, and poetry, drama is going to be the most powerful to your senses and emotions than the other two. And that brings us to what the real purpose of drama is. As defined by Perrine's Literature, Structure, Sound, and Sense by Thomas R. Arp and Greg Johnson, quote, "The deepest purpose of drama is to give accurate and powerful expression to human thought and emotion." And that is pretty much the gist of what drama is. It is meant to create emotion in you. And it does this through multiple ways. There are a couple of genres, if you will, of drama. We have tragedy on the one hand and comedy on the other. Tragedy is meant to make you sad, make you cry, make you feel pity or fear. Like Hamlet. His dad's dead. He wants revenge. He's crazy. Or Romeo and Juliet. Love. They can't be together. They run away, and in the end they're both dead. Very, very sad. That's tragedy. Comedy, on the other hand, as most of us probably know, hopefully, is meant to make you laugh. To make you feel joy. To make you happy. Now, Shakespeare, he wrote both tragedies and comedies. Good examples of tragedies would be like Romeo and Juliet mentioned earlier, Hamlet, Richard III, any play that has a character and characters with dramatic events, very emotional, very gripping, and it usually ends in tears for somebody who's really into it, very, very sad and emotional. Sometimes it doesn't. The majority of the play, though, is still going to have a sad, emotional overtone, even though the end might be happy. The character might have a happy ending. Almost something like Cinderella, though. I wouldn't call that a tragedy or a play or literary in that way, but kind of like that. Shakespeare also wrote comedy. Examples of comedy, we have Twelfth Night, which is a romantic comedy. So instead of focusing on making you laugh as much, it's more of a sort of joy, make you smile, make you just feel good after you're done. And it just involves characters in somewhat humorous and difficult situations, and it usually ends marriage. Twelfth Night ends in marriage, but it'll end with all the problems being resolved and everything being good. It's pretty much always going to be happy ending. Something like Midsummer Night's Dream is a lot more just making you laugh and focusing on just somewhat crazy, unrealistic fairies, talking animals, just stuff that, due to its ridiculousness, is funny. And Shakespeare is known for this. I mean, here's where he is unique. He doesn't use super realism in his plays. When the characters talk to each other, either in tragedy or romantic comedy, they talk in a poetic, unrealistic form. I mean, we're not going to talk to each other in the way like Hamlet and the famous "to be or not to be." Quotes like that from his books just show his poetic style in his writing and in the way they speak. Also, what happens in his plays aren't especially